Hi friends, welcome back to Inktober Tangles 2025. I'm Martha and I'm going to walk you through the steps of the Toodles tangle today. That was a mouthful. Just like the first 3 days, I'll be giving you 2 flavors of this tangle, one simple and one with a little extra flair. I'll be using a black Pigma Micron 01 pen and a small bijou tile for this first version of the Toodles tangle. I'm starting in the center and drawing out to the corner a simple S curve, and then I'm adding a second S curve to it, connecting at the top and the bottom. I'm then going to draw a curved line out on the left side and add just this little kind of seed shape to the end, and I'm going to fill that in with black ink. And I'm going to do the same thing over on the right side. So just this lovely motion of coming up into a curve and then curving back around to that line to create this little kind of seed pod. Next, I'm going to start at the top of that original S curve, and I'm going to curve out to the left and then loop back up to the outside, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the right. And so it creates this lovely leaf shape. I want to fill the space behind this leaf shape with more of these leaf shapes. So I'm going to start by drawing another S curve, and I'm picking up my pen and drawing behind that leaf so it gives that sense of depth. And then adding that kind of seed pod on the left side, and then just the top of that little seed pod on the right. And then coming around on the left and right side with those lovely curves. And then I'm going to move over to the right side. I always try to balance out my tangles, my drawings, and flip-flop from the left to the right, or to the right or to the left, just so there's kind of a sense of balance in the composition. I think now that I'm looking at it for the 400th time, maybe instead of little seed pods, these are like the folds in this leaf. I don't know. Maybe I'll think it's something else when I look at it another time. There's no specific number of these kind of leaf forms that you need to draw. Just do whatever's most comfortable or what space you have available on the tile or the paper that you're using. I like odd numbers, so I'm going to continue to draw until I have 5, and then we'll move on to the next step. The next step is to fill in those S curves with a series of orbs. I like to start in the middle. It's usually the biggest one, and then get smaller as I go down to the top and the bottom of these leaf shapes. I'm just kind of squishing them in, however many will fit. You're welcome to press pause and fill these in at your own pace, and then meet me at the next step. Next, I'm going to go back in and fill in those little spaces between the orbs on the left and right side with a little bit of black ink. And now it's time to add some graphite to this tangle. So I'm just going to take my pencil, and using the side, I'm going to add a little bit of graphite to the center S curve, and then to these outer curves on the left and right side of these leaf shapes. And I'm not going to shade too much more than that for this one. I'm just going to keep it pretty simple. And then grab my tortillon and blend that graphite into the paper. And that is a simple version of the Toodles Tangle, which looks very complex to me. The way that it's drawn and the various curves and the layering. It's a lovely tangle. I'm going to go ahead and fill out the back with Inktober Tangles 25 so I can remember this day. It's day 4 and the tangle is Toodles. Always recommend filling out this and labeling your tangles so that you can reference it easily next time. So now I'm going to try a little bit more of a complex version. I'm going to use a Renaissance tile, so this kind of tan colored paper, and I'm going to start by adding 4 dots in the corners, and then I'm going to connect those together to create a border on my tile. I'm now going to take my Pigma Micron 01 pen in black and create an S curve in the middle of my paper, and I've kind of made that S curve a little bit on the diagonal here. And then I'm coming up on the left and right sides with curves and then looping back around to create this kind of seed form. And now this is kind of where the magic happens. It's these 2 curved lines on the left and right side that just bring everything together. And we start to see this leaf shape. And maybe those seed forms, those seed shapes are not really seeds, but maybe the folds in this leaf that we're drawing. I'm going to go ahead and draw another one on the left side here. So again, starting with the S curve, another line right next to it, connected at the top and the bottom, and then a curved line looped back around on itself on the left and right side. And then the final 2 curves on the left and here on the right, and I will just draw and then pick up my pen when I intersect that first leaf. I'm now going to turn my tile, and you'll notice that I'm starting to have these S curves all meet at this one point. And so they're all kind of growing out from this one little space. So this next one I'm drawing is going to be fairly large. So maybe it's a leaf that's had a little bit more growing time than these smaller ones that are just emerging. And I'm drawing it again behind these first smaller leaves, so I don't see the whole thing. You'll notice that even though I drew a border on this tile when I first began, that I'm breaking outside of that border. It's something I like to do when I tangle. I like the juxtaposition between this edge and then some sort of organic shape that breaks out of that. So with this current leaf shape that I'm starting here with this S-curve, I've now breached all 4 edges of that border. So I have 5 of these leaf shapes, and I'm going to add just a few more, and these next ones will go back to being a little bit smaller than the last 2. I'm just trying to fill up a little bit more of this tile. So I'm going to do one here on the right side. And then turning my tile, I'm going to do one more. Again, all are kind of growing from this one point. And this one's going to be pretty small. So it's a little baby. Little baby Toodle. This kind of reminds me of, a crack in the sidewalk. And there's all this plant life trying to grow out. All right, there we go. Next, I'm going to change to a brown pen, sticking with the 01 size, and I'm going to redraw that border, but I'm not going to draw it where the Toodle tangle is, only the spaces between those leaves. And I love this brown color. And then to kind of balance out this very organic tangle, I'm going to draw a series of vertical lines from the top to the bottom. And I started to play around with pressure here, just pulling the pen down lightly. So you might want to play around with that. You'll notice that first line I kind of skipped. Or maybe you just want a dark solid brown or line, whatever color pen you're using. Whatever you think looks best. I'm going to go ahead and finish up these lines, but please feel free to pause the video and then meet me when you are done. Alright, so I'm going to keep using the brown pen, and I'm going to start to fill in those S-curves with orbs, starting in the middle and then working my way up to the top of the leaf and then down to the bottom. And just squishing in what I can. And then I'm going to make sure that I color in those little spaces between the orbs to that solid brown color. I'm now going to go in with a third ink color. So I started with black, then used brown, and now I'm taking a white Jelly Roll pen and I'm filling in those orbs with some white ink. I'm going to use a white charcoal pencil for the shading here, or in this instance, the highlighting. And I'm going to just curve it around the edge of each of those leaf shapes. And I'm being pretty heavy-handed with it. I really want to lighten up some of these areas. I have these nice spaces of dark, and now I want to add some white to balance it out. I'm now going in with the tortillon and blending that white charcoal into the paper. I always find that the Renaissance tiles need a little bit more blending. And if I remember correctly from my ZENTANGLE training, that I think that this paper has a little bit different tooth to it than the white tiles that ZENTANGLE creates or has made for them. So I think that's another reason why I'm usually a little bit more heavy-handed, because it blends a little bit differently from the regular graphite on the white tiles. So just filling it in, really softening it up and adding this nice highlight to the edges of these leaf shapes. I'm now going to use a regular graphite pencil, and I'm going to shade on the outside of the original border. And this is always a fun technique, I think, to kind of soften up and add shading outside of your tangles. I think it just helps create a nice soft frame instead of that stark or harsh edge. So I'm just taking my tortillon and blending it out a little bit, and it gives it more of like a window feel, like maybe even these leaves are sitting in like a little windowsill or something. Okay, maybe just a little bit more graphite. Adding a little bit of graphite to the left and right side of the S curve in the middle of each of these Toodles, and this is just going to help kind of bring out this form that we've created instead of just this flat shape. I really see something that's more three-dimensional than flat now by adding these kind of shadow areas along with the highlights that were added with the charcoal pencil. All right, there we have it, the Toodles Tangle. Well, a variation of it at least. I had a lot of fun doing this one. I love the combination of these inks on this Renaissance tile. One of my favorites. So I'm going to go ahead and label the back Inktober Tangles 2025 and Day 4 Toodles. Okay, I'm going to add my chop here, and now we are done. I hope you had as much fun drawing along as I did creating this. It's one of my favorites so far. Again, I love this combination of colors on the Renaissance tile. Thank you again for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for day 5. Bye.